Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a while. Successive home games for Norwich City this week, starting off with the visit of Bristol City tomorrow evening. Adam Harvey joined by Samuel Seaman. Obviously, we want your comments, so get them down in the comments section below, and we'll try and get around to them at the end of the show. Me and you, Sam, were both at Dean Smith's press conference this morning. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the talk was surrounding the sad passing of Queen Elizabeth II last Thursday evening, which obviously postponed the game at Burnley on the Friday evening. What did you make of Dean Smith's comments? Obviously, a lot of tributes there that were paid, and how excited are you to be back at Carrow Road? It feels like it's been a bit of a while for sort of some Norwich City action after weeks of a lot of relentless games.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it will be 11 days by the time Norwich play Bristol, and that's as you sort of outlined, feels like an enormous amount of time given we were going to 2-3 games a week beforehand. So yeah, being back at a football game is going to be very exciting. It's felt like quite a strange few days. Obviously, not only not having the football game, but the events that have stopped it happening. But no, I'm really looking forward to actually watching some football. Feels like that's probably the most exciting part of our job. So now that I've been sort of in the office, trying to think of ideas of various pieces to fill holes, now to be back in the sort of hectic atmosphere of a football match where the content is sort of there for me to I don't have to do too much work apart from hammering some keyboards sort of as quickly as I can for 90 minutes. But now I'm very much looking forward to being back amongst the sort of football atmosphere and watching a game for the first time in a long while comparatively. But yeah, I thought it was interesting and also good to see how sort of respectful Dean Smith was. He talked about it for maybe longer than you might expect from football managers. I think a lot of the worry will be around PR and not saying the wrong thing and not offending people, but Dean Smith didn't seem to be particularly worried about that. He just wanted to pay his respects, and I thought he did that in a fulsome and very impressive manner, I thought. So yeah, it was nice to see that, and it felt quite different to obviously it is quite different to what we're usually used to asking him. It's the same sort of routine. I've only done probably 5 or 6 presses now, but I'm already very used to the routine of it and the slightly monotonous nature of what that is. So to have something to mix it up was very interesting, and to get an insight into quite how high regard Smith held the Queen in was very interesting and good to see. So yeah, a bit of a change of pace, and I think there'll be a lot of people, especially the ones invested in sort of the royal family and that aspect, who will be very interested to see that. And yeah, I thought it was a fitting tribute from Dean Smith this morning.
Yeah, supporters and players alike will get their opportunity to pay tribute tomorrow evening. A minute's silence before the game, followed by the national anthem, seems to be the plan. So should be some quite emotional and moving scenes, similar to those we saw at the West Ham game on the evening that the news was sadly broken. And I remember seeing a video across Twitter from that game, and it sort of brought some really nice scenes. So hopefully we'll see similar to that tomorrow evening. It feels even longer for me since I saw Norwich City in action. I was on annual leave the week that we had played Birmingham and Coventry. So my last game was Sunderland away. So I said to you this morning, it feels like I've almost had another summer break. That's how long it's been. So quite excited to be back at Carrow Road tomorrow evening. On the injury front, Sam, quite positive news in the sense that there's no more injuries from that Coventry game. We also got a bit of an update as well on the likes of Liam Gibbs, Yanulis and Hayden. Gibbs, Smith said he's out of his boot and back walking, so that seems like a very positive piece of news. Yanulis obviously said it in the Burnley press conference that obviously eventually the game never happened, but that Yanulis was the one who was closest to return. And Isaac Hayden as well, back on the grass. He said sort of saw him yesterday playing around with the football. So on the whole, Sam, very positive news, particularly when we've now got an international break just around the corner at the end of this week. And sort of further 2 weeks to get those boys back amongst the group.
Yeah, in terms of Hayden and Yanulis, as you sort of mentioned, we got updates on that recently, but this was the first we've heard about Liam Gibbs for a little while, and I thought that was, that was some positive news. It's almost like when they lost that defensive midfielder, because, looking back for those 2 or 3 games where he did fill that defensive midfield role, he did it very well, and I thought he made the midfield problems that Norwich had suffered with for a long time sort of go away for a little while. And as much as I'm a bit of a fan of Kenny McLean, I don't think that's his best role, and I don't think he has as much of a presence in the defensive area of midfield as you need to be effective at Championship level. So, yeah, I thought it was good to hear a positive update about him. It almost feels like when he got injured, the focus immediately shifted to Hayden, and you can understand that he's obviously a sort of big name signing by Norwich City standards. So a lot of the focus did shift to him, and almost people forgot about Gibbs. I felt so to have that update was really encouraging, and I think Liam Gibbs will be, after the start he's had in a senior Norwich City shirt, he'll be chomping at the bit to be back in and amongst it and really show Dean Smith what he's about. I think the sense that I get is that it may be a sort of similar return time to Isaac Hayden in terms of on the training pitch, but you'd think with the amount of time that Hayden spent out injured, it'll be Gibbs that will have to start a couple of games once he's returned before they can get Hayden back in. And that's the point of competition for places. Is as unrealistic as it might have sounded at the start of the season, the task now is for Liam Gibbs to ensure that the big marquee first and arguably most important signing they made this summer doesn't get back into the team, and what a series of events that would be. But yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. Obviously, I think we're probably still looking at a couple of weeks, and as you said, the other side of the international break, but we often forget how big those 2 weeks can be when you're trying to stem the flow of injuries, and Norwich have been in much, much worse situations than they're currently in before. I remember a couple of years ago, it felt like the international, they were just sort of clawing to try and get to the international break because they had so many injuries. I think Marco Stiepermann was starting up front around this time. So comparatively, although, and we got a comment in the Q&A that we did on the Pink and Plus app yesterday that said, why do we have the worst medical team in the world or something? And I said, I think every football fan thinks they've got the worst medical team in the world. That's just the way that things are. But if you compare it to previous crises they've had on the injury front, I think they're in a pretty decent position, and especially when you consider they've got two players coming back in a key area in Liam Gibbs and Isaac Hayden, and then at left back, one of the best left backs in the Championship, no doubt, coming back in Dimitris Yildiz. So you'd think the other side of the international break, it's only going in the right direction because they've already won 5 games in a row, and now they've got 3 seriously good level Championship operators. So yeah, that'll be exciting for Norwich fans, I'm sure.
They say good minds think alike. You stole my thunder in regards to a marquee signing of the summer, a man who provoked a lot of excitement, a sort of similar ilk, I suppose, to the Jolis sign in the sense of the excitement that was surrounding him. There was a lot of hype. A man named Gabriel Sara, I'll put him up on the screen. Just the 4 Championship appearances, those all off the bench, 2 opportunities as well in the Carrow Road Cup this season, but yet to really sort of be put into that starting 11 for the Championship. So we did get a few comments this morning from Dean Smith. Paddy asked him the question, sort of what's Sara got to do to get in the mix. We know that he came with an injury, so that's ultimately taking him a little bit of time to get back up to speed, and he's obviously also trying to adapt to life in England. So what do you think Sara needs to do, Sam, to push himself into the starting mix, basically?
Maybe wait for them to stop winning. I mean, realistically, it's very difficult to drop a player from a winning team, but we've seen Smith do it before. I think Ono Hernandez has come in and then been dropped out again during this 5-game run. So Smith isn't afraid to do it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen tomorrow. A little spoiler alert for my tactics board video, I am going to have Sara in that predicted 11. So I actually think he might not be waiting much longer, even if I'm wrong on that front. The amount of praise that he's getting from Smith, and having watched him, I know this might be a relatively insignificant sample, but watching him in the warm-ups, he looks like an absolutely fantastic player, technically very, very good, and I think he's at Championship level probably going to stand out, and I think Dean Smith probably knows that. But as I said, it's difficult to drop players from a winning team, and when Smith, his job is on the line and his reputation, and he wants the club to win, he's not going to look at a team that's just won for him 3-0. Rarely are you going to do that and take the risk of changing it. And I think we can all understand that. So, yeah, I think a dip in form might help him out. I think possibly the gap now that they've had between games helps him out a little bit, because you're not just doing that sort of roll-on thing where, I remember a few years ago, I think they won 8 or 10 games in a row, and it was just like, obviously the team's not going to change because 2 days ago they won 4-0 or whatever. Whereas now, as much as they are on a winning run still, that momentum isn't quite there, and it's not quite the same situation. So I think that gap might have done him a little bit of service, but other than that, he's just got to keep training well. And all the noises we've had are that he's been training well and he's been putting in the effort. And as much as no manager is going to come out and say he's been training poorly, he's been rarely are they going to do that overtly. You sort of know when that's the case, and I don't think that is the case with Sara. So I think we'll see him very, very soon, and I think it depends on more the team around him than his own capabilities. I think it's probably clear to everyone inside the club and amongst the fan base that he's got the quality. He's just got to be a little bit patient, and if they win their next 36 games or however many's left in the Championship, and Sara doesn't get on the pitch, I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed. So it's good news either way, really, I was going to say for Gabriel Sara. I can't imagine he's going to be delighted in that situation, but it's good news either way for Norwich City fans. As much as I'm looking forward to seeing him, I don't think anyone's going to complain while they continue to win games.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to say that his chances of starting will probably be enhanced when Isaac Hayden's back. You feel like maybe him and Nunes ahead of Hayden would give it sort of a little bit more athleticism and versatility in that midfield that Smith kind of has alluded to quite a few times. On tomorrow night's opponent, Sam, Bristol City started the season quite similar to Norwich, just 1 point on the board from their first 3 games. And strangely enough, their first point of the season came against Wigan Athletic, which so did Norwich City. So quite a lot of similarities between the two clubs. They're 4th in the league, 2 points behind Norwich, sat in 4th at the moment. So a team that's in form as well. So we've got a bit of a clash of 2 informed teams at Carrow Road tomorrow evening. So what have you made of Bristol City and Nigel Pearson as well as a manager?
I think they've kind of quietly crept up. I remember a lot of fanfare around Sunderland, and especially before Alex Neil departed there was a lot of, I think, maybe worry from Norwich fans, and there was a lot of highlighting of that as the first game where they were going to really be tested against a potential promotion rival. And I haven't really heard much of that about Bristol City. So that suggests they've crept under a lot of people's radar. You have to add the caveat we're only 8 games in, and they've won 4 out of 8, which, that's certainly not enough to say they're going to be competing for automatic promotion come the end of the season. But yeah, I've been really impressed. They've got some decent Championship operators. Naki Wells, Chris Martin, that's a dangerous duo up front. A few other players sort of in and around the team that can provide danger. I saw, I think one of their players won the Championship Young Player of the Month last month as well. So, they've got some really good operators there, and Nigel Pearson is an incredibly experienced manager. I'm sure most football fans are aware of him and his sort of character. He got quite a lot of praise from Dean Smith, and it's been highlighted, obviously, that Craig Shakespeare, Smith's current assistant, has been with Pearson at a number of clubs. So it's a manager they'll know well, not only through their own inside knowledge, but just through his teams throughout his time in the top 2 divisions. And it's just one of those Championship teams that I don't think anybody sees as especially different or doing something else like maybe Daniel Farke's team did. But it's just one of those that's well-oiled, lots of experienced players and lots of people that are going to turn out 7 out of 10s in the Championship on a regular basis. So I do see them being towards the right end of the table. I think it's probably too early to say, especially given they haven't got any especially incredible standout players, as much as they've had that player with the Young Player of the month. I don't think anybody's talking specifically about any incredible Bristol players. And you look at teams before, and you've got Ivan Toney, Emi Buendia, Alexander Mitrovic, and most of these Championship teams that are promoted do have those sort of standout players. So I think maybe they would need to add a couple in January, or we'd have to see somebody emerge on a long-term basis. But for now, obviously, they look decent enough, and they're going to certainly provide Norwich with a test. I don't see anything like the Coventry sort of steamrolling, and I see them playing a lot better than a lot of the teams Norwich have faced. So, it's going to be a tight, close game. And obviously, we'll get to our predictions at the end of the show, so I don't want to spoil that. But, it'll be a very close one, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Norwich deal with that, because let's be honest, they haven't played too many teams that we see competing with them at the top end of the table.
Yeah, they're the joint top goal scorers in the division. Tommy Conway's the young player you're referring to, 4 goals so far this season. Looks like a really exciting talent. And I saw on Twitter a few Bristol fans are kind of saying he's very similar to Tammy Abraham when they had him on loan from Chelsea, just a young forward who looks like he's sort of born to score a few goals. So definitely one to look out for, although they're a little bit fragile in the defence. And in staying on that sort of theme of defence, there's a certain man who's Swiss and has a house in Dis. Tim Closer is returning to Carrow Road tomorrow evening. He's been injured for the majority of this season, but I saw that he was sort of deemed fit for their, postponed game against Preston at the weekend. So you'd imagine he'll be amongst their squad tomorrow evening, Sam. So how much are you looking forward to his return, and what sort of reception do you think he's going to get? I mean, inevitably, you'd imagine it is going to be a very positive one.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a massive reception when he greets the fans. Plenty of fantastic moments. Obviously, that late equaliser against Ipswich, and he was very much not only because of that, but because of his sort of personality and his social media presence. He had quite a lot of the characteristics of a fan favourite. So I think he'll receive a rapturous welcome when he comes out. I don't know. I'm hoping I don't walk into him in any corridors, because I think on the podcast the other day I said that he was something along the lines of him being a transfer flop, which was perhaps a little bit harsh, but I'm not sure he was, due to the injuries, perhaps not maybe worth what Norwich City paid for him in the first place. But in the Championship, very, very capable operator, and the fact that Bristol City have managed to land him on a free, that was a fantastic deal for them. And I think the fact that at his age, he's still in and around their first team on a regular basis, and he's still wanted towards the top end of the Championship. That shows how talented the man is. So it's just about really unlocking that potential. Not, we say potential, I don't mean in terms of improving, but it's about using that ability that he has and not letting the physical issues get in the way, because I think we all saw his performances in the sort of Project Restart period, when it was quite sad to see a player who's clearly talented but just looked to be struggling a little bit after a few long-term injuries. But I'm sure he'll be looking forward to coming back to a place where, by all accounts, he was very happy. Obviously had that great relationship with the fans, and he's very happy to talk Norwich City now. Even when he's interviewed, I think he did something with Talk Norwich City. He's done something with us exclusively for the Pink and Plus app. So you don't do that if you're not keen to revel in the experiences you had at a football club. So he has a lot of affection for the football club and its fans have a lot of affection for him, and I'm sure he'll get a fantastic welcome, even if he's not in the Bristol City 11. In fact, that might work in his favour if he's not trying to stop Tamer Pukki scoring goals. I think that will stop that conflict of interest for Norwich fans, and I'm sure he's going to be very pleased to come back to NR1.
Yeah, that's definitely an interview worth going back and checking out if you're a Pink and Plus subscriber and didn't watch it, because lots of really nice quotes from Tim Closer about his time at the club and how much he sort of loves the area of Norfolk and Norwich in general. So that's well worth going back and watching. We'll be live for about another 5 or 10 minutes. So if you've got any more comments, get them down in the comment section below and we'll try and get round to them. In terms of Tim Closer and his defensive colleague, Sam, will they be facing two up front tomorrow evening? Obviously, you were at the Coventry game and you'd have seen Pukki and Sargent starting together. So what did you make of that combination? And do you think that's sort of something we might see tomorrow night against a team that's quite attacking?
Yeah, I think it is. Maybe not as a conventional front two, but the positions we'll see them in when Norwich are on the ball a lot of the time will be a front two. I believe Bristol play with a back 3-5 on a regular basis, and that really plays into Norwich's hands, as Smith was explaining following that Coventry game. I think the fact that there's not a winger for Aarons to mark means that he can sort of push on, and that lets Sargent come inside and mark one of the centre back, or be in and around one of the centre backs, and gets him a little bit more central than maybe a conventional right winger. So although a lot of the time he'll obviously be out wide and probably defensively more than offensively he'll be out wide, it does allow him to get into the box and provide that threat which he's shown all season really, and get up alongside Tamer Pukki and supply him as well. So I think it's the sort of setup that Bristol play is good news for Norwich. I did worry for them a little bit with the Burnley game, because they've played 4 at the back consistently throughout Vincent Kompany's time in charge there, and I wasn't sure that would allow them to get Sargent and Pukki both involved in the box. But the fact that Bristol play a back 3 or a 5, and rarely do teams change that, even if they can recognise that it's a sort of tactical advantage to the opposition, I think it does give Norwich an advantage, and it does hopefully mean that Sargent and Pookie can pick up the goal trail. I think that the fact that we saw both of them scoring in a game and both of them putting in good performances against Coventry was a massive relief, I think, for a lot of Norwich fans, because it almost felt like in order for Sargent to be the main man and to score a lot of goals, you had to sacrifice playing Tamer Pukki, and obviously that's a massive risk when you know what a player he can be in the Championship and what sort of numbers he can post in the Championship. But Smith was able to include them both and sort of proved that theory wrong. So I think going forward, that can only be good news, and that's what I expect to see against Bristol. Whether Pearson has quite a sharp tactical mind will be able to neutralise that will be interesting. And if he is, then that does take away a lot of Norwich's threat. So I imagine a lot of their preparation has been looking at that. But I also saw in his press conference today, which we've carried the quotes from, they'll be available on pinken.com from 5 o'clock. He's talked a lot about focusing on yourself and imposing your own game style rather than being too focused on the opposition. And although I understand the sentiment, I don't think that's good news for Bristol, to be totally honest. I think it's probably good news for Norwich City, and they'll look to exploit those weaknesses that Bristol have and exploit the tactical setup that Nigel Pearson goes with. So I think what they've got will suit Norwich, especially also in midfield. I don't think they pack that out in the same way that Coventry did. So Norwich maybe don't have to play the overly physical players. They can afford to have the technical minds like Marcelino Nunez or Todd Cantwell, even Gabriel Sara maybe, in that midfield without having to focus too much on bolstering it with the likes of Kenny McLean. I mean, Kenny McLean will be in there, but you don't have to worry about how you're going to compensate for that. So I think Bristol's setup on the surface does play into Norwich's hands, but obviously these things are fluid and every manager is well into the analysis and how to tactically stop the opposition. So it will be interesting to see how Bristol change, maybe to stop Norwich, but I think it will be very similar, the pattern of play, to what we've seen at Carrow Road all season long. I think Bristol will be sat behind the ball and we'll have to watch Norwich try and create some chances. So that should be enjoyable, I think, for Norwich fans, and should be a good game.
Before we come around to the all-important question of the show, the score prediction, Sam, staying on the subject of partnerships, we've just spoken about the attacking partnership. Dean Smith was asked about the defensive partnership of Grant Hanley and Omar Daly this morning. A partnership that seems to be growing quite well. If you look at the defensive record, Norwich much more resolute than they probably have been in past Championship campaigns. And Smith sort of spoke about when he arrived at Carrow Road, nearly a year ago now, how much he wanted to sort of resurrect and sort out the defence. And you got to feel that obviously we are in a different season and a different division, but there does seem to be some really big improvements in that area. And obviously he was asked about Ben Gibson and how frustrating it must be for him sort of trying to get into this team. So what sort of have you made of that defence, especially sort of with the injuries they've had at left back as well?
Yeah, I think Chris Sutton's written a column for tomorrow morning actually that says they're the sort of backbone and the basis for a successful team, and I totally agree with that. As much as we want to talk about Marcelino Nunez and Josh Sargent getting on the score sheet and how good a player Tamer Pukki is, and maybe Aaron Ramsey as well, they can score 2 goals every game, and if you're making mistakes on a regular basis, it's not difficult to concede to. The fact is, not only have they now got a solid tactical defence in terms of teams playing through them, it's not looked likely all season, but they've cut out those mistakes which plagued them early in the season against the likes of Cardiff and Wigan. So I think they're in a really good position now. Grant Hanley, we know, takes a few games to get into his stride and to reach his potential, but now that he's done that, he looks like just a fantastic Championship defender again, and possibly even the best in terms of pure defending. Maybe not on the ball, but in terms of pure defending, he's the best defender in the Championship, bar none, in my opinion. And then you've got Andrew Mbamidele, who not only is fantastic at that side, but displays all the characteristics where you'd maybe doubt Hanley in terms of on the ball and the other sort of elements, maybe the calmness that you might want at times. So I think as a duo, it works really, really well. It's a bit of a sort of Vidic Ferdinand type vibe with the slightly more rugged Hanley and then the classier Omobamidele, but I think they both fulfill functions very, very well. And it's a Championship defence that, in my opinion, and I don't think anybody could really dispute this, even fans of other clubs in the Championship, that this is the best defensive partnership that you're going to get in the Championship. But one thing's for sure, it's not going to survive in the Championship for more than one season. Andrew Bamidele, in my opinion, will be playing in the Premier League next season, and let's hope that him and Hanley can provide that solid base to get Norwich up, because obviously we all want to see it in a Norwich shirt, and we all want to see him realise a little bit of that potential in a Norwich shirt. But, there's no doubt he's the next one on that sort of production line that, Jamal Lewis, Godfrey, Emi Buendia. I think people expected Max Aarons to be on it probably about 3 years ago now. But Bamidele, for me, is that next big star in a Norwich shirt. And seeing him alongside a Hanley, who is, in my opinion, greatly underrated. I think probably because he's Scottish and he's a bit older, and at times he's made mistakes. There's a perception that he's not necessarily a very good defender and that he's just all about experience. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think technically he reads the game very, very well, and he's got a timing in his challenges that is very rare and very important if you're going to be a high-level defender. So I think Norwich are lucky to have two such fantastic defenders, and if they can stay fit all season, I don't see how, as much as Dean Smith said Ben Gibson was pushing them, I don't see how him or Jonathan Tompkinson is going to get in the side, because, as I said, you do well to find a better defence, and I think Norwich are in a fantastic position. It means probably if they score 2 goals, they've got a huge chance of winning in every game, and that's always good to see when you're an attacking player, to look back and know that if you make 1 or 2 moments of quality pay, you're probably going to do your job and win the game. That must be a fantastic feeling, and I think everybody involved with Norwich City is delighted that they've got those 2 players at the back.
Through that time in the show, Sam, let's have it. The score prediction time. We've spoken about the sort of fragility of the Bristol City defence and the resolute nature of the Norwich City defence. So it's got a goal fest written all over it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think Bristol will score, and I think Norwich will score more. There you go. So I think 3-1, I'll say, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Pukki back amongst it now that he's got the feel. I think we see another goal from him, and I'm confident that we'll see a good game. So yeah, a 3-1. Although that margin of, I'm questioning that margin of victory a little bit now that I know slightly more. Now that I've done a bit more research into what Bristol are and how well they've been doing, but I still see Norwich winning, thankfully, and we'll see. Don't want to count my chickens too much. That's what I'm thinking now that they keep winning games. I think as soon as you relax, that's when they're going to lose one. But no, I'll say 3-1, and I think Pukki's going to score. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 3-2. I can see a lot of goals. I think Norwich will nick it. I think I'll go 3-1 up, and I think Bristol will get one late and make it a little bit nervy. But
yeah, I can see that. To be fair, me on the match report just thinking, please don't score. So that I don't have to.
It is our worst nightmare, isn't it? When there's a late goal, everything's prepped, but has to.
Yeah, I was saying that. I've said that to you a couple of times now, haven't I? That when you're a fan, a late goal is, it's fantastic, but when you're obviously a journalist, it's the absolute nightmare. So hopefully they don't score that second too late according to your prediction. But people are probably better to go off yours than mine, because you're sort of the man at the moment with the predictions. You've been getting a few right in a row. So let's look forward to an exciting game according to what you're saying is going to happen.
Yeah, we'll take lots of goals. That'll be good. That'll wrap it up for this show. Lots of really good content across our channels at the moment. We've got the Dean Smith press conference video from this morning. That's now up on the YouTube channel. So some really nice quotes from Dean Smith surrounding her late Majesty, the Queen, and a lot of all your sort of team news updates, everything you need to know ahead of this one. Sam's going to be recording this tactics board video very soon. So if you're a Pink and Plus subscriber, then obviously we know that's the place to go for everything stats related. Obviously all the usual articles as well, as Sam's already said. All the Bristol City quotes from their end will be going up. We've got Chris Gorham's latest column, and Paddy's obviously producing all his usual really good articles. So lots of really good content across our channels, and we'll all be at Carrow Road tomorrow evening. So if you want to get a pre-match interview or post-match interview, then DM Sam, because that's something that we can organise and get across our channels. And yeah, all the usual, match coverage ahead of this one. Hopefully a really, really good game between two really, really good attacking sides. So thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you can enjoy tomorrow night's game. Again, thanks for joining us.